The battle began at exactly 1432 Earth Standard Time and ended at 1909 the same day. Admiral Morrison would later say it was the shortest war in galactic history, but also the most important one. In 4 hours and 37 minutes, humanity changed from being the galaxy's newest species to being its most feared military power. Admiral Krelthak tried to retreat as soon as he understood what his fleet was facing, but retreat was impossible. The 7 human warships had positioned themselves perfectly over the past month. No matter which direction the Zenthari fleet tried to run, they would face massive weapons that could destroy ships faster than they could escape. Captain Laura Green watched from the bridge of her warship as the alien fleet scattered in panic. The organized formation that had looked so impressive an hour ago was now breaking apart as individual ships tried desperately to find escape routes. But every path was blocked by human weapons that had been waiting patiently for 15 years. Target the flagship first, came the order from Admiral Morrison. Show them what happens when they threaten humanity. Laura nodded to her weapons officer. Fire when ready. The beam that struck the Zenthari flagship Dominion was invisible to the human eye, but its effects were not. The massive crystal ship, which had been the pride of the Zenthari Empire, simply disappeared. One moment it was there, gleaming in the light of distant stars. The next moment it was gone, leaving only a cloud of glowing particles that scattered into space. The destruction of their flagship sent panic through the entire Zenthari fleet. Ships that had been trying to organize a counterattack suddenly turned and fled in every direction. But the human warships were ready for this too. Weapons that could crack planets made short work of normal spaceships. Engineer Matt Collins monitored the weapon systems aboard the warship built from Vesta. His screens showed target after target being eliminated with perfect precision. Each shot from the massive weapons destroyed entire squadrons of alien ships. The battle was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration of what happened when primitive technology met advanced planning. The alien ships that tried to fight back found that their weapons could not even scratch the armor of humanity's warships. Laser beams that could melt through. Normal ship hulls simply bounced off the human vessels like raindrops. Missiles that could destroy space stations exploded harmlessly against force fields that had been designed to stop planet-killing weapons. Dr. Amy Rodriguez watched the battle from her monitoring station and recorded everything for history. The alien fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were being destroyed by weapons they had never imagined possible. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being eliminated by the hundreds. But the most amazing thing was not how powerful the human weapons were. It was how little effort they required. Amy's instruments showed that the 7 warships were using less than 3% of their total firepower. They were not straining or struggling to win this battle. They were casually swatting away a fleet that had seemed unstoppable just hours before. Some Zenthari ships managed to escape the solar system, but not many. Of the 3,000 vessels that had entered human space so confidently, fewer than 200 survived to tell the tale. The rest were destroyed so completely that there was no wreckage left behind, just empty space where a mighty fleet had once been. Captain Rachel Stone stood in the command center of the largest human warship, watching as the last alien ships disappeared into hyperspace. Her screens showed the aftermath of the battle. The solar system was quiet again, with only small clouds of glowing particles to mark where the enemy fleet had been. All human vessels report 0 casualties, she announced to Admiral Morrison. All 7 warships remain fully operational. Total ammunition expended, less than 1% of available stores. Morrison smiled as he heard the report. Humanity had just fought the largest space battle in galactic history and had not lost a single ship or even a single person. The aliens who had thought humans were weak and primitive had been proven completely wrong. Within hours of the battle's end, emergency sessions were being called on every major world in the galaxy. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. For the first time in over a century, representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss what humanity's demonstration meant for the future of galactic politics. Ambassador Greg Adams arrived at the council chambers to find a very different atmosphere than he had experienced 30 days earlier. The arrogant confidence was gone. The condescending attitudes had disappeared. Instead, alien representatives looked at him with something that humans had never seen from them before: respect mixed with fear. High Counselor Vextar's crystal body was no longer glowing with the dark purple light of authority. Instead, it flickered with nervous yellow colors as he tried to figure out how to address the human representative. The being who had demanded humanity's surrender just a month ago now seemed small and uncertain. "Ambassador Adams," Vexatar said carefully, "the Council would like to discuss the recent events in your solar system. Perhaps we acted too hastily in our previous demands." Greg sat down at the council table with calm confidence. For 8 years, he had been forced to listen to aliens talk about humans like they were children, who should be grateful for permission to exist. Now the same aliens were trying to figure out how to avoid making humanity angry. "The Council is wise to reconsider," Greg replied smoothly. "Humanity has always preferred peaceful cooperation to military action, but as you have seen, we are prepared for either option." Dr. Sam Turner arrived at the Council station, carrying detailed technical specifications for humanity's 7 warships. His job was to make sure the aliens understood exactly what they had witnessed. The specifications showed weapons that could destroy planets, engines that could move mountains, and manufacturing systems that could build more warships just like them. "Each of our 7 vessels," Dr. Turner explained to the stunned alien representatives, "contains full industrial facilities. We can construct additional warships without returning to Earth. What you witnessed today was not our full military capability. It was our opening statement." The aliens studied the specifications with growing alarm. The human warships were not just powerful, they were self-sufficient. They could build more of themselves anywhere in the galaxy. Humanity had not just built 7 planet-sized weapons, they had built 7 mobile factories that could create an unlimited number of planet-sized weapons. President Helen Foster addressed the galaxy from the Oval Office on Earth. Behind her, through the windows, the lights of humanity's defensive grid were visible in the night sky. Her message was broadcast to every world in the galaxy and translated into hundreds of alien languages. "Humanity seeks peace and cooperation with all species," she said calmly. "We have no desire to conquer or dominate others, but we will never again accept being treated as inferior beings who exist at the pleasure of older civilizations. We have shown that we can defend ourselves. We hope we never need to demonstrate our capabilities again." The years that followed became known as the Great Rebalancing. Treaties that had favored older species were renegotiated on equal terms. Trade agreements that had exploited human resources were replaced with fair partnerships. The galaxy learned to deal with humanity as equals rather than subjects. The 7 warships remained on patrol throughout human space, serving as permanent reminders of what happened when humanity was threatened. But they were never needed for combat again. The lesson of the Battle of Sol was clear enough that no species ever again tried to challenge human independence. In the end, humanity had achieved something remarkable. They had gone from being the galaxy's newest and weakest species to being its most respected power, and they had done it not through conquest or aggression, but through patience, planning, and the willingness to prepare for the inevitable day when preparation would be needed. Commander Steve Barnes stood on the bridge of Earth Defense Station Alpha, watching the alien fleet approach on his main screen. 3,000 ships moved through space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like metal insects against the black background of stars. At the front of the fleet was the Zenthari flagship Dominion, a massive ship that looked like a crystal cathedral floating through space. Steve had been expecting this moment for 30 days, ever since the Galactic Council had delivered their ultimatum. Every human in the solar system had been preparing for war. But the aliens had no idea what they were really flying into. They thought they were coming to conquer a weak species with primitive technology. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The communication system crackled to life. Admiral Krelthak's voice came through the speakers, cold and arrogant like all Zenthari voices. "Attention, human forces, I am Admiral Krelthak of the Zenthari, Imperial Fleet. You have 30 minutes to surrender all military installations and withdraw your ships to Earth orbit. Any resistance will be met with immediate destruction." Steve looked around the bridge at his crew. Every person there was, trying hard not to smile. The aliens thought humans would be terrified by their show of force. Instead, the humans were excited. After 15 years of secret preparation, they were finally going to show the galaxy what humanity was really capable of. Admiral Morrison's voice came through Steve's private communication channel. "All units report ready, Commander. Shall we begin the revelation?" Steve nodded, even though Morrison couldn't see him. "Send the response, Admiral. Let's give them our answer." Admiral Morrison sat in the command center of Luna Station, surrounded by screens showing every part of the solar system. He could see the Zenthari fleet spreading out into attack formation. He could see Earth's small defense fleet moving into position to protect the planet. But most importantly, he could see 7 special markers on his tactical display, 7 asteroids and moons that were about to change everything. Morrison opened a communication channel to the Zenthari flagship. "Admiral Krelthak, this is Admiral Morrison of Earth Defense Command. We have received your demands and considered them carefully. Our response is simple. We decline." There was a long pause. Then Krelthak's voice came back, sounding surprised and angry. "You decline? Do you see the size of my fleet, human? You cannot possibly resist 3,000 warships with your few hundred vessels." Morrison smiled. "You're right, Admiral. We cannot resist 3,000 ships with a few hundred vessels. Fortunately, we have something else." Before Krelthak could respond, Morrison gave the order that would change galactic history forever. "All Titan units begin transformation. Let them see what we've really been building." Throughout the solar system, 7 objects that had looked like ordinary asteroids and moons for 15 years began to change. Captain Laura Green was aboard the warship hidden inside Vesta when the transformation began. She stood in the main command center, watching as massive screens showed the view from outside the asteroid. "Beginning surface removal," announced Chief Engineer Paul Davis. "All crews stand by for revelation sequence." Laura felt the entire asteroid vibrate as enormous machines came to life. Outside, huge sections of rock and ice that had covered the warship's hull for years began to fall away. The fake surface that had made Vesta look like a normal asteroid cracked and split and drifted into space, revealing the gleaming metal warship hidden underneath. Laura watched on her screens as gun ports opened along the warship's hull. Weapons bigger than most alien ships extended from their hiding places. Armor plating that could stop planet-killing weapons reflected the light of distant stars. In less than 5 minutes, what had looked like a dead rock became obviously and terrifyingly a weapon of war. The same thing was happening at 6 other locations throughout the solar system. The asteroid series split open like a flower, revealing a warship larger than most cities. 3 small moons near the asteroid belt shed their rocky disguises and became fortress ships bristling with weapons. Europa showed its true nature as a mobile weapons platform covered with enough firepower to sterilize worlds. But the most impressive transformation happened near Mars. What everyone had thought was a captured asteroid turned out to be humanity's largest warship. It was bigger than Earth's moon and carried more weapons than the entire Zenthari fleet combined. As its fake surface fell away, the massive ship gleamed like a metal planet in the light of the sun. Dr. Pete Jackson was aboard Luna Station, monitoring all galactic communication frequencies. His job was to make sure the galaxy saw what was happening. As soon as the transformations began, Pete activated humanity's most powerful transmitters and began broadcasting on every channel that alien civilizations used. "Attention all species in the galaxy," Pete announced. "This is Dr. Pete Jackson of Earth Defense Command. For 15 years, the Galactic Council has believed that humanity was engaged in simple asteroid mining. We allowed you to believe this because it served our purposes. Today, we reveal the truth." Pete's transmission included video feeds from all 7 warship transformations. Across the galaxy, alien leaders who had been watching the battle with amusement suddenly found themselves staring at weapons that dwarfed anything in their own fleets. The images showed massive ships that had been hidden in plain sight for over a decade. "What you are seeing," Pete continued, "are 7 planetary-class warships. Each one was constructed in secret over the past 15 years. Each one is capable of engaging and destroying entire fleets. We built them not because we wanted war, but because we knew this day would come." Admiral Krelthak stood frozen on the bridge of the Dominion, staring at the tactical display that showed his fleet's situation. Moments ago, he had been confident of easy victory. His 3,000 ships had been approaching what looked like a few small human defense platforms and some scattered mining equipment. Now his sensors showed 7 massive objects that had appeared, as if from nowhere. His ship's computer was struggling to calculate their size and firepower. The largest one was showing energy readings that exceeded anything in Zenthari records. Even the smallest of the human warships was larger than his flagship. "Admiral," his tactical officer said in a shaking voice, "the energy signatures we're detecting. Some of these ships could destroy our entire fleet by themselves." Krelthak felt fear for the first time in his military career. He had conquered dozens of star systems and defeated hundreds of enemy fleets, but he had never faced anything like this. The humans had not just built ships, they had built mobile planets armed with weapons that could crack worlds. Captain Laura Green received the targeting information from Luna Station Command. Her warship, along with the other 6, now had clear firing solutions on the entire Zenthari fleet. The aliens were spread out in attack formation, but they were still bunched together enough that humanity's weapons could destroy them all in a single coordinated strike. "All weapons charged and ready," reported her weapons officer. "We can eliminate their entire fleet in less than 10 minutes. Laura nodded but waited for orders from Admiral Morrison. The point of this revelation was not just to win a battle. It was to show the galaxy that humanity would never again accept being treated as a lesser species. The aliens needed to understand that humans had been planning and preparing while they had been arrogant and careless. Morrison's voice came through the communication system one more time. "Admiral Krelthak, you came here expecting to conquer a primitive mining colony. Instead, you have discovered that humanity has spent 15 years preparing for this exact moment. We suggest you reconsider your position." Navigation Officer Kelly Brooks stared at the huge computer screen in front of her. Numbers and lines moved across the display, showing the positions of every object in the solar system. To most people, it would look like a confusing mess of dots and calculations. But Kelly could read it like a map, and what she saw made her heart race with excitement. 7 special dots were moving very slowly across her screen. These dots looked just like asteroids and small moons drifting through space, but Kelly knew they were actually humanity's secret weapons. Each dot represented a warship the size of a planet, carefully moving into position for the battle that was coming. Kelly sat in the command center of Luna Station, but her real job was coordinating the movement of all 7 hidden warships. It was the most difficult navigation challenge in human history. Each warship had to move at exactly the right speed and in exactly the right direction. They had to look like natural objects floating through space, not like warships getting ready for war. The hardest part was making the movements look random. Real asteroids don't move in straight lines toward battle positions. They drift and tumble, and change direction based on gravity from planets and moons. Kelly had to make sure humanity's warships moved the same way, even though they were actually following a careful plan. Engineer Matt Collins was inside the hidden warship built from the asteroid Vesta. He stood in a control room deep inside what used to be solid rock. Around him, massive engines waited to be turned on. These engines were unlike anything humans had ever built before. They were powerful enough to push a small planet through space, but they had to work without being detected. Matt pressed a series of buttons on his control panel. Deep inside the asteroid, the engines came to life with a low rumbling sound. But from outside, nothing looked different. The engines were designed to push against the asteroid's natural rotation, making it look like Vesta was just drifting in a new direction because of Jupiter's gravity. Matt watched his instruments carefully. The engines were working perfectly. Vesta was now moving toward the inner solar system, but any alien watching would think it was just following a normal orbit. The movement was so slow and natural that even the best alien sensors would not suspect anything. Dr. Amy Rodriguez sat in her laboratory aboard the warship hidden inside Ceres. Her job was to monitor all the alien surveillance systems throughout the galaxy. Dozens of alien species had spy satellites and monitoring stations watching human territory. Amy had to make sure none of them detected what humanity was really doing. Amy's computer showed feeds from alien monitoring stations all around human space. The Xanthari had 3 major spy satellites watching the asteroid belt. The Kalari had sensors on 2 moons near Mars. The Morgoth had a hidden listening post on one of Saturn's rings. All of these stations were watching and recording everything that happened in human territory. But the aliens were seeing exactly what humans wanted them to see. Amy smiled as she watched the alien reports coming in. According to their sensors, human asteroid mining was continuing normally. A few asteroids were drifting slightly because of gravitational changes, but nothing unusual was happening. The aliens had no idea that 7 massive warships were moving right past their spy stations. Amy had helped design the camouflage systems that hid humanity's secret weapons. Each warship was covered with fake rock and metal that looked exactly like a real asteroid. Special projectors created false sensor readings that matched what aliens expected to see. Even if an alien ship flew right next to one of the warships, they would only detect a boring chunk of space rock. Commander Tony Mitchell was aboard the warship built inside Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Europa still looked like it always had, from the outside. It was a ball of ice with a frozen ocean underneath. But now the ocean was gone, replaced by weapons and engines and living spaces for thousands of human soldiers. Tony's job was to coordinate the most complex military operation in human history. 7 planet-sized warships were moving into position without being detected. Each warship had to arrive at exactly the right place at exactly the right time. If even one of them was discovered too early, the entire plan would fail. Tony looked at his tactical display. The warship inside Ceres was moving toward the outer edge of the solar system. The one built from Vesta was heading toward Mars. 3 smaller warships were positioning themselves near the asteroid belt. Europa was moving toward a spot between Jupiter and Saturn. The largest warship, hidden inside a captured moon near Mars, was slowly adjusting its orbit to get a clear shot at the space lanes where enemy ships would have to travel. Everything was going perfectly. In 18 more days, all 7 warships would be in position. The aliens would arrive expecting to fight a few small human defense ships. Instead, they would find themselves surrounded by weapons that could destroy planets. Far from human territory, the Xanthari fleet was gathering at a staging area near Proxima Centauri. Admiral Krelthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion, watching as more ships arrived every day. Soon, he would command the largest fleet the Xanthari Empire had ever assembled. Krelthak was confident about the coming battle. His intelligence officers had told him that humans only had a few hundred small warships. The human defense fleet was no match for 3,000 Xanthari vessels. This would not be a battle. It would be a simple demonstration of Xanthari power. The Admiral looked at the tactical display showing human territory. His scouts had been watching the solar system for weeks. They reported exactly what he expected to see. A few defense platforms around Earth and Mars, some patrol ships guarding the outer colonies, a collection of mining equipment scattered throughout the asteroid belt. Krelthak had fought dozens of battles during his long career. He had conquered star systems and destroyed entire civilizations. But he had never fought humans before. His advisors told him that humans were weak and cowardly. They said humans would probably surrender without fighting once they saw the size of the Zenthari fleet. Back in human space, Kelly Brooks made small adjustments to the movement of the 7 warships. Each one was now following a carefully planned course that would bring them to their final positions just in time. The aliens would never suspect that the asteroids and moons they had been ignoring for years were actually the most powerful weapons ever built. Engineer Matt Collins finished his shift and was replaced by another engineer who would continue monitoring the engines. The warships had to keep moving day and night, but the movements had to be so small and gradual that they looked natural. It was exhausting work, but every human involved knew how important it was. Dr. Amy Rodriguez checked the alien surveillance reports one more time before going to sleep. The aliens were still seeing nothing unusual. Their spy satellites recorded normal asteroid movements and regular mining activities. None of them suspected that humanity was preparing to change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. In 17 more days, the Zenthari fleet would enter human territory. They would come expecting an easy victory over a primitive species. Instead, they would discover that humans had been planning for this moment for 15 years, and they had built weapons that would make alien fleets look like toys. Admiral Jake Morrison walked slowly to the big window of Luna Station. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. Outside, in the black space, he could see the last cargo ship getting smaller and smaller as it moved toward the asteroid belt. The ship looked tiny against the stars, like a small dot of light disappearing into nothing. Jake had been watching ships like this one for 15 years now. Every week, cargo ships would leave Luna Station and fly out to what everyone thought were simple mining operations. The other alien races in the galaxy believed humans were just digging up rocks and metals from dead asteroids. They had no idea what humans were really doing out there. Dr. Emma Clark sat at her desk in the station's research center. Piles of reports covered her workspace. Each report told the same story to anyone who might be watching. Humans were mining iron, gold, and rare metals from asteroids. The work was slow and boring, just like mining should be. But Emma knew the real truth hidden in these fake reports. The reports were lies. Humans were not just mining asteroids. They were hollowing them out completely. They were turning dead rocks into something the galaxy had never seen before. Emma smiled as she thought about how shocked the aliens would be if they knew what was really happening. 3 months ago, Emma had visited Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt. From the outside, it looked exactly like it always had. A big gray rock spinning slowly in space. But inside, Ceres was now completely hollow. Miles and miles of empty space filled what used to be solid rock. And in that empty space, humans had built something amazing. Captain Ryan Torres was at that very moment standing inside what used to be the center of a small moon near Jupiter. The moon still looked normal from outside. Any alien ship that flew past would see just another dead rock orbiting the giant planet. But Ryan was standing in a room the size of a football stadium, surrounded by weapons that could destroy entire cities. Ryan walked along a metal walkway that stretched across the hollow center of the moon. Below him, huge machines hummed quietly as they put together the final pieces of a weapon system. The weapon was so big that it took up 3 levels of the hidden space inside the moon. When it was finished, it would be powerful enough to crack a planet in half. The workers around Ryan moved carefully and quietly. Every person here knew how important their secret was. If the aliens ever found out what humans were really building, There would be war immediately, but the aliens would never find out, because humans had become very good at keeping secrets. Commander Lisa Hayes sat deep underground beneath the Pacific Ocean on Earth. Her office was part of a secret military base that stretched for miles under the ocean floor. The base was so deep that even the most powerful alien sensors could not detect it. Lisa's job was to make sure all communication with the aliens sounded normal and boring. Every day, Lisa received messages from human colonies throughout the solar system. The messages talked about mining quotas, equipment repairs, and worker schedules. To any alien who might intercept these messages, they would sound like exactly what they were supposed to be. Simple reports from simple mining operations. But Lisa knew how to read the real meaning hidden in these messages. When a report said they had found a new vein of iron ore, it really meant they had finished installing another weapon system. When a message complained about equipment breaking down, it meant they needed more time to complete their secret construction. The aliens had always looked down on humans. The three most powerful species in the galaxy treated humans like children who were only good for digging up rocks. The Xanthari Empire was the worst. They acted like humans should be grateful just to be allowed to exist in the same galaxy as them. But the aliens had made a big mistake. They thought humans were weak because humans tried to avoid fighting. They thought humans were stupid because humans did not have fancy technology like theirs. They were wrong about both things. Humans were not weak. They were patient. Humans were not stupid. They were careful planners who thought about the future in ways that aliens could not understand. While the aliens had been busy fighting each other for control of the galaxy, humans had been quietly preparing for something much bigger. Admiral Morrison remembered the day 15 years ago when the plan had started. The Earth government had gathered the smartest humans from every field. Scientists, engineers, military leaders, and construction experts had all come together in secret. They had asked themselves one simple question: how could humans protect themselves from aliens who were stronger and had better technology? The answer they came up with was so crazy that at first, nobody believed it could work. Instead of building normal spaceships to fight alien spaceships, humans would build weapons so big that alien spaceships would look like insects next to them. They would hollow out entire asteroids and moons, turning them into warships the size of planets. The best part of the plan was that the aliens would never see it coming. Asteroids and small moons were everywhere in space. They looked the same whether they were solid rock or hollow inside. As long as humans were careful, they could build an entire fleet of planet-sized warships right under the aliens' noses. Dr. Clark finished reading the last report of the day. According to her files, human mining operations were going exactly as expected. Production was steady but not impressive. Workers were doing their jobs but not working too hard. Everything looked normal and boring, just the way it was supposed to look. But the real numbers told a different story. 7 asteroids and small moons were now completely converted into massive warships. Each one was big enough to hold thousands of normal spaceships inside. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy every alien ship in the galaxy. The largest warship was built inside what used to be a captured asteroid near Mars. It was bigger than Earth's moon and packed with enough firepower to turn entire planets into dust. The smallest was still larger than any city on Earth, and it could move through space faster than most alien scout ships. Jake Morrison looked at his watch. In exactly 28 days, the Galactic Council would meet to discuss new rules for human activities. The aliens were getting impatient with how slowly human mining was progressing. Some alien leaders were starting to talk about taking control of human operations directly. Jake smiled as he thought about that meeting. The aliens thought they were going to tell humans what to do. They had no idea that in 28 days everything in the galaxy was going to change forever. Ambassador Greg Adams walked into the huge meeting room at Proxima Station. The room was so big that his footsteps echoed off the walls. Tall windows showed the stars outside, and in the center of the room was a round table made of some kind. of blue crystal that glowed softly. Around the table sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Greg had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 8 years. He had sat in this same room hundreds of times before. But today felt different. Today, the aliens were not just talking about trade agreements or mining permits. Today, they were talking about the future of humanity. High Counselor Vexatar stood up slowly. He was a Zenthari, and like all his people, he looked like he was made of living crystal. Light passed through his body and bounced around inside him, making him glow with different colors. When he was angry, the light turned red. When he was pleased, it turned blue. Right now, the light inside him was dark purple, which meant he was about to say something important. "Ambassador Adams," Vextar said in his high, ringing voice, "your species has had 15 years to prove that you deserve a place in this galaxy. The Council has been patient with your slow progress and simple technology, but that patience has limits." Greg kept his face calm, but inside he was tense. He had been expecting this moment for months. The aliens were finally making their move. All around the table, representatives from other alien species nodded their agreement. The tall, thin Kalari with their long necks moved their heads up and down like birds. The huge, furry Morgoth grunted their approval through their massive teeth. "The Zenthari Empire has submitted a proposal to this council," Vextar continued. "Humans have been mining in our galaxy for 15 years, but their results are disappointing. They work too slowly. They find too little. They waste too much time on unimportant things." Greg knew this was not true. Human mining operations had actually been very successful. They had extracted millions of tons of valuable materials from asteroids and small moons. But the aliens wanted those materials for themselves. They had always planned to take control of human operations when the time was right. "Therefore," Vextar said, his crystal body now glowing bright red, "the Council demands that humanity transfer all mining facilities to Zenthari control. You have 30 standard days to remove your people and equipment. After that, Zenthari forces will take possession of all human operations in space." The room was completely quiet. Greg could hear his own heart beating. This was exactly what Earth had been preparing for. The aliens were finally showing their true intentions. They wanted to make humans into slaves who worked for alien masters. "And if we refuse?" Greg asked quietly. Vexatar's crystal body flashed brighter red. "Then the Zenthari Empire will use military force to remove you. We have 3,000 warships, ready to enforce this decision. Your small defense fleet cannot possibly resist us." Greg nodded slowly. "I understand. I will deliver your message to Earth immediately." But inside, Greg was smiling. The aliens had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They thought humans only had a small defense fleet of maybe a few hundred ships. They had no idea what humans had really been building for the past 15 years. 6 hours later, Greg was back on Earth. He sat in the underground bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean, facing President Helen Foster and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The room was filled with the most important military leaders on the planet. Everyone looked serious, but Greg could see excitement in their eyes. "So they finally did it," President Foster said. She was a small woman with gray hair, but everyone in the room respected her completely. "They think they can just take everything. We've built and make us their servants." General Carl Roberts spread a holographic display across the table. The display showed the entire solar system, with tiny dots marking the positions of asteroids, moons, and space stations. To anyone else, it would look like a normal map of human territory. But Greg now knew the truth about those tiny dots. "Ma'am," General Roberts said, "Project Titan is fully operational. All 7 units are in position and ready for action." Greg stared at the display. 7 of the dots were marked with special symbols. These were the asteroids and moons that humans had, secretly converted into massive warships. Each one looked like a normal space rock from the outside, but inside they contained enough weapons to destroy entire fleets. Dr. Noah Parker, the chief engineer of Project Titan, stood up and activated a new display. This one showed detailed views of each hidden warship. Greg's mouth fell open as he saw what humans had really accomplished. The smallest warship was built inside an asteroid near Mars. It was the size of a large city and carried weapons that could punch holes through. Alien battle cruisers. The largest was constructed inside a captured moon orbiting Jupiter. It was bigger than some planets and packed with enough firepower to level civilizations. The Zenthari gave us 30 days, Dr. Parker said. That's actually perfect timing. It will take us exactly 28 days to move all 7 units into optimal positions. By the time their deadline arrives, we'll be ready for them. President Foster looked around the room. How long can we keep this secret? The alien monitoring stations haven't detected anything unusual, reported Colonel Sandra Bell, who was in charge of intelligence operations. To them, our movements look like normal orbital mechanics. Asteroids drift. Moons change their orbits slightly. It all appears completely natural. Greg thought about Vextar and his arrogant crystal face. The Zenthari leader believed he was about to conquer a weak, primitive species. He had no idea that humans had spent 15 years preparing for this exact moment. Admiral Morrison joined the meeting through a video link from Luna Station. The Zenthari fleet is already assembling at the edge of our territory, he reported. 3,000 ships, just like they said. Their flagship is something called the Dominion. It's the largest warship they've ever built. How big? President Foster asked. About 2 kilometers long, Admiral Morrison replied. Very impressive. For a normal spaceship. Everyone in the room smiled at that. The Zenthari flagship was huge by normal standards. But compared to humanity's hidden planet-sized warships, it was tiny. It would be like comparing a shark to a whale. Dr. Parker activated another display showing the timeline for the next 30 days. We'll move our units slowly and carefully. By day 28, they'll all be in perfect position. The Zenthari will arrive expecting to fight a few hundred human ships. Instead, they'll face 7 mobile fortresses, each one capable of destroying their entire fleet. Greg leaned back in his chair. For 15 years, he had sat in that crystal room on Proxima Station, listening to aliens talk about humans like they were children. The aliens had always acted like they were doing humans a favor by letting them exist. Soon, they would learn how wrong they had been. Send my reply to the Council, President Foster ordered. Tell them we need time to consider their proposal. Ask for meetings to discuss the details. Make it sound like we're scared and trying to negotiate. Greg nodded. It would be easy to act scared. The aliens expected humans to be frightened. They would never suspect that humanity was actually eager for this fight to begin.